He practiced the same 6 words for 6 weeks, in front of a mirror, alone, in a wheelchair, and still the moment arrived and the words would not come. What he did not know was that the woman on the other end of the phone was also hiding something, and by the time both secrets came out, neither of them would be the same person they were at the start. His name was Carter, 34 years old, wealthy by inheritance, confined to a wheelchair after a car accident 3 years ago. He had built a quiet life inside his large estate. Routines, order, control. The outside world had become something he watched through windows. But loneliness does something to a person over time. It does not arrive loudly. It settles in slowly, the way dust settles on a shelf you stop reaching for. Carter had stopped reaching for a lot of things. He had one close friend. Her name was Hannah. She worked for him as his personal aide, handling his schedule and his care. She was steady and calm. She had a quiet sense of humor, and she worried about him in the way only someone who truly pays attention can worry. Hannah was the one who convinced him to try online conversations. Nothing serious, she said. Just talk to someone. Let yourself be a person again, not just a patient. So Carter did. He began writing to a woman named Sophie. They had been talking for 4 months. 4 months of messages, of laughter, of honesty, or what Carter thought was honesty. He had not yet told her about the wheelchair. Every time the moment came, he lost the words. He rehearsed it constantly. He asked Hannah to sit across from him while he practiced. She played the role of Sophie, and he tried to say the sentence out loud. 6 rehearsals, 6 failures. The sentence always died before it left his mouth. "What if she leaves?" he asked Hannah one afternoon. "You cannot predict her reaction," Hannah said. "All you can do is be honest. Honesty is the only thing that gives people a real choice." He nodded. He already knew this. Knowing something and doing it are 2 different things. That same week, Carter needed to hire a new assistant. His previous one, a man named Tom, had suddenly disappeared. No notice, no explanation, just gone. Carter had liked Tom. It bothered him more than he let on. A man named Roland came for the interview. He arrived on time, well-dressed, confident without being arrogant. His resume was strong. His references checked out. Carter hired him on a trial period. Roland moved through the house quietly. He was helpful and efficient. Carter thought he had made a good choice. But this is where things started to move in a direction Carter could not see. Hannah had a secret of her own. She had carried it for years like a stone in her chest. Her mother was sick, seriously sick, and Hannah had spent the last 3 years working at Carter's estate not just because she needed the money, but because she needed enough money to pay for her mother's surgery. She had not told Carter the full truth about this. She had kept it professional. She had kept the wall up. One afternoon, her mother's condition got worse. Hannah received a call from the hospital and had to leave. Carter told her to go. He would manage for a few hours. She drove to the hospital with shaking hands. When she arrived, a nurse at the desk looked at her with cold eyes. "So now you remember you have a mother," the nurse said. Hannah stopped. "What do you mean?" "She has been here for months without a single visitor," the nurse said. "Now you show up?" Hannah's voice dropped. "That is not true. My brother came. He always came." The nurse said nothing more. She pointed Hannah toward room 43, but Hannah never made it to the room. Her brother was already in the hallway, and the expression on his face was not relief that she had arrived. It was anger. "I just came from her room," her brother said. "I tried to prepare her for you. And do you know what happened? She got so upset I had to calm her down. She does not want to see you. She does not want to hear your name." Hannah felt the words like a physical blow. "I love her," she said. "I want to apologize. I need to explain everything. You will only make it worse. Is that what you want?" She stood in the hallway and could not move. Something in her broke quietly. Not at once, but in pieces. She did not yet know that her brother was lying. She also did not know that back at the estate, something far more dangerous was already in motion. Roland had not come to work for Carter by accident. While Hannah was at the hospital, Roland received a visitor. A woman arrived at the estate. Her name was never spoken out loud. She moved like someone who had planned exactly how long she would need to be there. Roland met her outside, away from the house. "This was not the plan," she said. "Plans change," Roland replied. She wanted to move faster. Roland wasn't sure, but they had already come too far to stop. What Carter did not know was that Roland had been placed inside the estate deliberately. Someone had sent him, and that someone had one goal: to take everything Carter had while Carter was still believing he had found a friend. The question was, who had sent Roland? That answer was coming, and when it arrived, it would rewrite everything. Back at the hospital, something shifted. Carter had quietly followed Hannah. He had asked his driver to take him there. He had not told her. He just went. He found her in the hallway. He watched her for a moment before she saw him. She looked like a person who'd spent too long carrying something no one could see. "You told me honesty makes people stronger," Carter said when she turned around. "Your mother, Hannah. You have to go in." "She hates me," Hannah said. "She will push me away." "Then at least," he said quietly, "you will not spend the rest of your life blaming yourself for not trying." She looked at him for a long moment. "If you do not go in," he added, "I will cancel my date with Sophie tonight." She almost smiled. Almost. She walked into room 43, and what she found in that room changed everything she believed about the last 3 years of her life. Her mother was not angry at her. Her mother had been waiting for her every single day. Her mother had looked at the door and hoped. "I thought you hated me," Hannah said. Her mother's voice was soft. "I've been waiting for you every single day." "But Bruce said—" She stopped. She used the wrong name. It was the first time she had said it out loud in a long time. "Who's Bruce?" her mother asked. And that is when Hannah realized something was very wrong. Her brother's real name was not what he had told everyone. The man who had told Hannah her mother didn't want to see her, the man who had kept her away, the man who had filled Hannah's head with guilt for 3 years. He had been lying, deliberately, systematically. He had kept them apart on purpose. Why? Because while Hannah was drowning in guilt, believing she had failed her mother, he had been controlling the money. The small amounts that came in from volunteers, the donations meant for her mother's care. He had been using them for himself. 3 years. Her mother had been sitting in that room, alone, while her son told everyone she wanted no visitors and quietly spent whatever money came in. Hannah walked back into the hallway. Her hands were steady now. She was not angry. She was something worse. She was done. Meanwhile, Carter was preparing for his date. Hannah was supposed to go with him for support, but Roland was also supposed to be alone at the estate. There was a plan in motion that Carter still could not see. Carter arrived at the restaurant. Sophie was already there. She was nothing like he had imagined. She was older, quieter, with careful eyes. He locked her immediately. He told her about the wheelchair. He said the sentence he had practiced for 6 weeks. Sophie was still sitting there. She didn't leave. "You should have told me sooner," she said, not coldly, honestly. "I know, I was afraid," he said. "I understand being afraid," she said. For a moment, it felt like something real was beginning. But across the table, a different scene was playing out. The woman Carter had assumed was Sophie stood up and walked towards them. She was younger. She looked embarrassed. "I'm actually Sophie," the real Sophie said. She had sent a friend to meet Carter first because she was afraid of how he would react to her plain appearance. Carter looked at the young woman who had been pretending. Then he looked at the real Sophie. "It looks like we were both hiding," he said, and for nothing. Back at the estate, Roland had started to move through the rooms. He was systematic. He knew where Carter kept important documents. He had been studying the layout for weeks. He was not alone. Hannah's brother had arrived. He expected to find the house empty, but someone was still there. Tom was still there. Tom, the former assistant who had disappeared without explanation. The same Tom that Roland had quietly forced out of the house weeks earlier. Tom had come back, not for money, not for revenge. He had come back because he knew what Roland was planning, and he could not stay away. The confrontation was not quiet. Roland had a weapon. He believed he had every advantage. He was wrong. And when Carter returned home that night, it was over. Roland was on the ground. Tom was standing. Hannah's brother had been exposed. The police were called. Hannah stood in the center of the estate and looked at the man who had been her brother and said 5 sentences. She said them without raising her voice. She said she knew everything he had done to her mother. She said she knew about the money. She said she knew he had kept her away on purpose. She said she never wanted to see him again. She said if he came near her mother or Carter again, she would go straight to the police. He left. Later, Carter sat with Hannah in the quiet of the study. The house was still.
Outside, someone had already called the prosecutor's office. The evidence against Roland was enough to close the case quickly. "Your mother, Hannah. The surgery. I want to cover the cost." Hannah looked at him. "You don't have to do that." "I know," he said. She didn't argue anymore. In the weeks that followed, things settled slowly. Tom came back to the estate, this time as more than an employee. Carter's mother was moved to a better facility. The surgery was scheduled. Hannah visited her every day. Carter and Sophie met for a second dinner. A real one this time. No rehearsal, no pretending. Just two people being exactly who they were. One morning, Hannah arrived at the estate to find Carter in an unusually good mood. His posture was lighter. His voice had a warmth she had not heard in a long time. "Sophie and I are engaged," he said simply. Hannah's eyes filled. She turned to look at the window for a second before turning back. "When you recover," Carter told her mother later over a phone call, "we will have the wedding. And of course, you're invited." The laughter in that phone call was real, not performed, not rehearsed, just